Hello gamers, let's go Sooners. All right, welcome to the new school year. For those that don't know me or haven't been able to spend any time with me, hopefully we can change it this year. I'm Mike Moog Aguilar, the Director of Esports and Co-Curricular Innovation at the University of Oklahoma, housed in the Division of Student Affairs. I know that's a mouthful, but it's important to know where we house and where we live on campus. I want to start this kind of State of the Union status, kind of changes for the new year with reminding all of us why we're here in the first place. For the students, you guys are here to get an education. That is your North Star. That is your compass. That is your goal. That is the end game for all of this. Past that, what we represent on campus is a topic that has been marginalized and dismissed for years and decades. Hence why I'm 42 years old, to out myself, and why it's just now becoming a thing, as I've been a gamer since before most of you were born. And you guys, as you enjoy this as a default for you, this is the dream of your predecessors and even your parents, to have the ability to celebrate gaming. And through that, we must always remember and cherish and spotlight the fact that gaming is for everyone and everyone is welcome. Topics like Call of Duty are equal to us like Genshin Impact. Halo is equal to us as cozy games, and so forth. There is no PC master race, aside from friendly jabs. Sure, come on, I'm a PC gamer too. But at the same point, we must be respectful of each other, and we must attack issues, not each other. And that personifies and extends past your time in the ranks. If you're a member of this development, you are a representative of a culture that is trying to gain more and more clout, more and more respect, more and more elevation, and more an opportunity. And so you must ingrain that in yourself as a core value so that we can accomplish the dreams of, one, having a job doing this, having side hustles that do this, having a degree structure that does this, having a pathway into an industry where you could do this, or at the very least, keeping it as a cherished pastime as you go into your other career fields, and keep gaming as a thing that helps you have mental health balance, that helps you have camaraderie with your peers, and keeps you connected to those that are physically distant. So please don't forget that. Gaming is for everyone. Everyone is welcome. Now let's get into this. This is going to be a very long-winded Moog speech, but I plan on posting this on YouTube. It'll be sectioned up so you can fast forward to the areas that you feel are more interesting to you. But I want to do all of this at once as we continue to elevate. We only get more sophisticated, more diverse, more dynamic, and obviously a lot more long-winded. So to begin with this, we're going to start with the reorganization of OU Esports and Co-Curricular Innovation. And for those that don't know, OU ECCI, that's what it stands for, Esports and Co-Curricular Innovation, which is our department name. And the umbrella for which everything that we all represent falls underneath. So affectionately from this point forward, ECCI is that nickname. We've used it plenty, but now it's being declared as this opportunity. So now I'm going to throw up an org chart. Now this org chart is effective immediately. And so we're going to walk through this really quickly because it's going to lead into topics of payroll and finances, so you guys can all understand how to leverage our system and opportunities that are now available to you that may not have been available to you in the past. So starting at the top, the red logos or the red brands, those are all the administrators or the support staff. And I'm also going to highlight appointments, the changes to leadership structures. I will also create a cheat sheet in text format in Discord so that you all know who's responsible for what as we move some things around. But naturally, some things that have changed this year is we now have two marketing managers, one that's focused on exclusively the OU Gaming Club side, the community side, especially now with the venue that's going into 7-day operations, which we'll talk about, and then one that focuses on the departmental and esports updates, meaning score reports, upcoming stream dates, upcoming game streams, upcoming influencer streams or podcasts, upcoming or highlighting of articles that come out of media, creative content. So for those, we move Jody Farmer, Bosun Wifey, who has a history of being the founder of OU COD, who evolved into multiple roles inside of leadership and is now sitting on the departmental / esports side of marketing coordination. On the other side is Asa, who started as a ambassador last year as a part of the community and labs team under Jacob, and now is in control and oversees all of the community engagement-based social media and marketing platforms. Now, one other big fundamental change is that everyone that was called a coordinator last semester, those top tier leaderships over anything that has master rosters underneath them, is now branded manager. And now their secondaries are called coordinators. And past that, we now just have our roles. So we'll continue to work through this org chart really quickly. Now there are two vacancies as we walk into this school year. One, I'm not really eager to backfill yet, just until we can get past back to school. The other one could easily be a fill. This will be a separate post I make. But underneath Asa and Jody on this org chart is the scheduling coordinator, which is going to be the epicenter for everything that the internal needs of our departments need. So if Rainbow Six needs to book a space, while Jacob has worked on automating the ability to reserve spaces, it would be the scheduling coordinator that helps sign off on that, offloading that off of Jacob. Jacob is going to still focus on the ability to have reservations for like outside entities. Maybe it's a department, maybe it's a student org that wants to reserve the space for a private event. That's where Jacob's role kind of focuses on still oversight of scheduling, but it will fall on this person's goal. Now, this comes from an inspiration from the influencer development team that is now defunct. And again, we'll get into that. But one of the things that team did very well is scheduling their week out. So taking that energy, cough, cough, influencer development team that's still here. This is a perfect opportunity, but you're going to be in control of the entire complex when it comes to internal requests. And it's not just going to be the complex. If Halo needs Den B, a den for a VOD review, or if Overwatch needs the den for a VOD review, or if a streamer needs to book a broadcast space, or even the Twitch channels and stream keys and things like this, it'll all be housed under the scheduling coordinator. In the future, this role would be the equivalency of the office manager. The second one, which is definitely a full-fledged leadership role, is outreach and external relations. Now, this is going to deal with being the GamerHaus liaison. This is going to be the leadership that I send out to high schools to be there for general information for college career fairs. This will also be the one that's involved for anything that we have to that comes with involvement fairs, tabling, awareness on campus, outreach in regards to collaborating with high schools or state-level leagues. And that's the one I'm not worried too much about backfilling until we get past our back to school era, so aka mid-September, and then I'll be focusing on that. All right, moving past this. Now, I'm going to skip the purples for now. That's the last one because that's the biggest change this year. But we're going into community and labs. Obviously, we have a 7-day facility now that's going live on August 12th. Again, we'll have more details here shortly. But in that, now Jacob Ross at the top is responsible for obviously running our complex, having everything upkept, inventory of things, making sure it's a well-oiled machine, but also sitting in meetings to have sponsorships to help sponsor events or working on those private renovations that bring in revenue. Well, Jackson, aka Ajax, will serve as the community and labs coordinator, who is responsible for that staffing, who's responsible for making the day-to-day operations of that 7-day facility functional, and then of course those ambassadors and lab staff underneath. Moving over to competitive, it is now officially called competitive. It is no longer called intercollegiate esports. I know that was a mouthful, but now it's just officially just called the competitive branch or competitive department. Still headed by Joshua Riesenberg. And now we are going to start exploring the need for competitive coordinators, those that will be over the oversight of the specific genre. So maybe FPS, it might be like FGC sports and MOBA that might be, we'll find ways to kind of categorize those things. But it'll help chunk up the fact that we have these teams and provide some additional layer of oversight and support. Now those are kind of come as they go. We are not in a rush to backfill or to fill those, but we are going to start exploring what that looks like formally this year, as we need to start focusing on elevating the intensity of those while we also streamline the energy within them. And now we're going into the purple. Now, last year we had 3 departments that would be that we haven't talked about yet. The first one was media and news, the second was production, and the third was influencer development. All of those entities are now combined to create the new creative content sub-department, which is now housed under that Sooner Esports logo there at the top bottom left. Now, creative content still retains the intentional focus of what we had in those 3 separate entities, but it's a little bit of a remix. Now, media and news are separate entities. Media, news, and stream and production are now the 3 kind of pillars underneath this. Don't worry, influencer development students, I got you. Now, when we talk about media and news, we pretty much aren't rewriting the script at all on that. Those things were okay. They functioned okay. Now it's just a matter of elevating them to the point of consistency and producing good documentation artifacts on a repetitive and consistent basis. But now production houses both influencer development and our production resources that we had before. Now, what does this look like? Before I go there, let's talk about who's over those. So Ray continues their championing of the media and news side of creative content, while we now appoint and elevate Sam Graziano, also creative media production major, who was on the production team last year, into the production side of things. Now, the goal with the production component of creative content is to create a platform for all of us to call upon, meaning that it doesn't matter if it's a fundraiser stream for Call of Duty, if it's a entertainment series or a singular style of influencer style stream like we were doing, or maybe it's a podcast or news segment that we want to start elevating. The goal for Sam's team is to develop the standards for how we do overlays, how we leverage our spaces, and then to provide a tool of producers that is able to be plugged into whatever type of programming is being called upon from whatever branch of ECCI that's calling it. So that means that in the future, in the next chapter, we will have a direct forum that is for students that want to maybe create a show. As an example, we will be piloting 2 new podcasts, one focused around NBA 2K. And again, these aren't our ideas. These are students that were in the right place at the right time to start kind of thinking about evolution past what we've been doing. And the second one is a wonderful little kind of more of approachable kind of gaming-centric entertainment series that's focused on just playing games with friends that will be on a repetitive basis. Either it's bi-weekly or monthly, and we're working on that as well, coming out of the Splatoon team specifically. But we're going to want to push more of that. Now, the individual streamer that we used to have, or that we were used to, will still continue on. The goal is to then just plug into these types of foundational platforms, having more autonomy, and then having abilities to call upon reserving those spaces, getting those stream keys, and getting on and carving your time. So influencer development will cease to exist as the department it's named, and it's now just a subset of influencer development, allowing us to plug in whatever type of content, esports production, more gaming entertainment production, more news style production, more influencer style content. Doesn't matter. All of it requires production. All of it requires a basis of understanding how to go live on interactive channels. That was the intent. It also becomes much easier to explain ECCI's intentions, as there's only 3 departments now: creative content, community and labs, and competition. All right. Past that, let's talk about payroll. So when we talk about payroll, we launched that in January, and now we have our first kind of major update now moving into the new year. Now, I just already revealed we're going 7-day operations. That date is August 12th, where the venue becomes 7-day operational. Now, payroll creates this opportunity for obviously students to have 20 plus hours of work within ECCI. 7 days a week means that there's 4 to 6 shifts a day at a minimum. And that's going to require more than just a couple of ambassadors. It's going to require a whole team that Jacob and Jackson have to manage, appoint, vet, and so forth. But to do that, we're going to scale up the ability for students to be on payroll. So first and foremost, if you are in ECCI already, and for future ECCI development students, you can now be a part of any area that you want to be. One caveat: for competitive rosters, you have to have the blessings of your dev lead to be able to apply to be anywhere else. And the biggest reason for that is because your time commitments to your team are pretty intensive depending on the team, meaning that I see Halo running exercises and then scrims and competition that can easily consume 15 to 20 hours of your time on top of your social need, on top of your academic goal of why you're here in the first place. So it has to have the blessings of your dev lead for the competitive students to be able to say that, because what's going to happen is, let's say that Tuesday night is match night for your title, and you told Jacob and you told Jacob and Jackson that you were available to work the venue on Monday and Wednesday. Well, we all know on the competitive side that reschedules happen, and now your Tuesday night match official time is now moved to a Monday or Wednesday, but you're already slotted to work on the venue. That is not the problem of the community and labs team. That is now your problem, meaning that if you can backfill that position by reaching out to another lab staff and get them to cover your shift, great. But for all intents and purposes, the lab and the venue as a revenue generating component takes precedence, priority, period. So that's why the dev lead has to give their blessings, because they are making an active acknowledgement that you can absolutely dedicate time to prioritization if you commit yourself to working in the venue, and that if a reschedule happens, then you got to figure it out. We're not going to put the pressure on the leadership that asked 2 weeks prior to your shift. If you could work it, you committed, and your team rescheduled because of whatever variable, and now we can't have that venue staffed. It's not going to happen. I would just remove you from the competitive roster if it became continuous. And in the next topic in finances, you'll understand more why. Now, for payroll, that means that anyone that's on the community and labs team that's running the lab staff, that is actually running that 7-day facility, you could easily push 20 to 30 hours a week. We are pushing from 20 hours to 30 hours in capacity, meaning that every single one of you will be at 30 hours. Now, for payroll, for those that have not been paying attention at the beginning of this calendar year, those jobs are anywhere from $8.50 to $12 an hour. Now, nobody is currently over $10 an hour, and that will change depending on how this semester goes and the revenue streams that we form. But it is an 8.50 to 12-hour scope with the intention of absolutely getting to 12 hours in some capacities. And I'll outline that more in the future as it becomes more clear. But everyone starts at 8.50 and can have up to 30 hours of utilization. So now you have a viable student job on campus that easily could be one of the coolest places. I'm sorry, it is the coolest place to work, because I'm going to endorse you playing video games as long as it's not a multiplayer so that you can pause. But you're going to have to apply for Jacob's team. He's going to vet you. And if you're in competitive, again, you need the blessings of your dev lead before we sign off on your ability to do that. Now, that also means that the media and news team and the creative content teams that are currently on payroll as well, you can immediately go into applying for community and labs. Now, those jobs are not endless. One big fundamental change this year is when we reset on July 16th, all of our roles, meaning creative content, community and labs, and the competitive tryouts, only have a window until September 1, and that application closes, all of them. And the only reason we would open the application again past that time is for emergency backfill in the case that, let's say, you had 3 students on a roster that dropped and just their grades were hemorrhaging and now you don't have a team. So now we have to immediately backfill it. Otherwise, we would open it again in January to February, and then we open it from August 1 to the end of August. Rinse and repeat every year, meaning that for the dev leads and the managers and coordinators, you will not get applications anymore unless it's that critical mass moment outside of 1 or 2 times in the school year, helping us focus on onboarding, getting them going, and then getting to work. Outside of that, payroll is still applicable for everywhere but competitive, meaning that there are opportunities in creative content, in community and labs, we already know, and then obviously in leadership. And again, we'll talk about finances here in a second and about how that works. So now let us actually talk about finances. Now, one of the things that I always struggle with is hopefully helping students understand that how we're built comes from a place where we have to put in the work to prove who we are. And we've done that. We've done that multiple times, and we have to still do more. This fight is far from over. But when we beat Berkeley and UT and Michigan to get the Collegiate Esports Program of the Year award, that's a big statement, because not very many things, if anything, outside of athletics beats Berkeley anywhere in Oklahoma. We've done that. We've done that just because of this intention and your contributions on top of the leadership and guidance that the administration and leadership provide within ECCI. But now we have been given the first kind of big opportunity to really prove to the University of Oklahoma that we belong here and that we can absolutely be a growth element to the university in a very, very big way. Now, for the competitive side, this is the side I hear out of it the most. One of the biggest things is, well, why is the other university offering, scholarships or part, 50% or more? If you look at them, there's a couple questions you must always ask before you open any kind of dialogue to either express concern, complaint, or inquiry. The first one is, what type of university is it? If it's a private university, their funding is completely different. Oftentimes, those schools are less than 3,000 to 4,000 students in enrollment, aka smaller than our OU Gaming Club Discord by itself as an entire university. And 2, because of the way that their money flows and the lack of, or the difference in politics and bureaucracy, they're able to tap into things like tuition dollars or room and board dollars, which we do not. And most public universities, 99% of us, do not get to do that. And so the public universities that are issuing scholarships are either fundraising themselves, which is what we had done in the beginning, but then ran the coffer dry and now have no backfill, or they have gotten to the point where the university is willing to invest in them in that way. And this next chapter is us going to do just that. So if you want to understand why scholarships aren't a thing, or why they were a thing and then removed, it's because they were not self-sustaining. They're not revenue generating. And I do not have access to some of the things that you would think that we would get, and what some of our university peers that are absolutely dominating in competition do have. Oklahoma Christian's a great example. My good friend Lucas Hayworth, up the street in northern Oklahoma City, gets access to tuition dollars for scholarship. I don't. That would be like an act of Congress to get OU to give me any of that at this current time. It's just not going to happen. So we have to make our own money. So with the venue going to 7-day operations starting August 12th means that we now start to make our own money. We have a facility that's open 7 days a week. We have a facility that can generate revenue, and we have a facility and pathways to leverage that to maximize our opportunity. So on this graph, I'm going to define what this looks like and then explain how this feeds into each other and the interconnectivity of these three pillars in creative content, community, and labs, and competitive. So first and foremost, community and labs is now the core, most important thing that we do to our livelihood and future trajectory. And the reason for that is that we will launch on August 12th at the same time the hourly rates and the membership packages to leverage and be a member of the OU Gaming Club. Now, for the OU Gaming Club in general, there'll always be a free pathway. For dev students, there is also a completely separate thing, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But the point is that we sell membership packages now for the campus. Now, one thing that every single student complains, I complain about it too, is obviously the rising cost of education. Now, you all pay school fees, university fees, depending on the degree. Some fees are more than others, but you all have kind of blanket fees. Part of that goes to the upkeep of the university. Some goes to things like fitness and rec for the gym, as wellness is a good component to emphasize that it's important to everyone. Library resources, all those ancillary services that we take advantage of or that we enjoy comes out of activities fees, which becomes involuntary. I do not want to become an involuntary thing to a campus which may or may not use it. I would much rather provide the opportunity for students to voluntarily tell us that they want this space and they want to leverage it. So membership packages, which will be defined on the website, come in at $99 or less a semester, all the way down to the equivalency of $80 a semester. Now, for dev students, this doesn't apply to you. As a dev student, one of the perks is that you get that membership package for free. Now, that membership package will include like 8 hours a month per 6 months. So it'll go like July to December, January to June. And for students that are not dev students or in GamerHaus specifically, they'll have to pay to either use it as an hourly rate, which is now flat rated across the board for anything inside of the complex or inside of the venue for $5 an hour, or they buy a membership package. They get 8 hours a month up front. So it's 8 times 6. Hours that they'll get immediately, and then they get the benefit of only having to pay $4 an hour from that point forward. Now, I don't expect any of you to remember that. It'll all be posted on the website here in days to come. But we're also launching intramurals, the same way that Fitness and Rec is launching intramurals. So obviously a very big game is coming out, regardless of it not being a traditional esport or not, but EA College Football, the birth of the SEC for OU, and the start of the football season all at the same time is a perfect storm for us. So we're going to launch intramurals across the sea of things that make sense for doing esports. So it might be Madden, it might be EA College Football, it could be MLB The Show as a one-off day, a Rocket League tournament. And when we say intramurals means the internal community of the university ecosystem. And unlike Fitness and Rec, we get to also market to HSC in Oklahoma City and the OU Tulsa campus. So we can branch all three. But those become revenue stream opportunities for us that become normal. Hourly use rates and membership packages. In parentheses, you'll see it says 400 a semester. That means if we sell 400 membership packages for the semesterly rate or for the semesterly time frame, or we sell 200 at the yearly rate, that means that the entire workforce of payroll to run that venue is self-sustaining. Now, our Discord is 3,400 members. If we can convert 200 of those into yearly rate, that means that the entire payroll of the venue, those 7-day operations, is paid for before anything else. It's done. It's self-sustaining. That is a massive statement to us, to the University of Oklahoma, saying that we can make money. Now, that's just the easy, low-hanging fruit, cliche thing to say, but that's true. It's it. If we think about it, at $99 to $79, how much do we spend in DLC in a year? Let's be serious. And so to be able to gain access to a venue, one of the other perks on that venue, for instance, for the Nintendo fans in our development, in our venue, and we'll talk about venue updates here next or shortly, is that Nintendo will now 100% work in our facility. The only place on campus where Nintendo Switches and multiplayer work. And that's a unique perk in membership as well. And as a dev student, you get those perks as well if you have Nintendo Switches. But then we start talking about the auxiliary stuff, the stuff that starts to bolster it. So for us, we can reserve the space out to third parties, whether it's a department. And we've run, even in the spring, we ran a reservation for ROTC. We did a collaboration with the Asian American Student Association fundraiser. We did a private graduation party. We also hosted a third-party FGC tournament, all of those of which were paid. So that starts to bolster it. So we get $200 a year or $400 per semester membership packages, and then you throw in a private event reservation that's $600 to $1,000 each. Venue fees for tournaments like Friday night Smash Dojos and Friday night tournaments and things like that. Those start to add a buffer. We're no longer self-sustaining, we're immediately revenue generating. So what happens with that excess? Well, the next tier over moves us into creative content. That overflow starts to fuel the needs for production. And production is important. Everybody benefits from the ability for us to personify who we are, showcasing who we are as competition, showcasing and supporting the producers and casters that are announcing our teams, putting on entertainment streams that have consistency so that we can sell them for sponsorships, articles and documentation like OUXP series or student spotlights and player spotlights. Those students in creative content now get to eat off this plate too, which then becomes, as it becomes consistent, becomes another sellable asset that we can have to grow sponsorships. This stream sponsored by, this podcast sponsored by, this segment of articles or this specific article sponsored by. And as that begins to feed and eventually gets topped off, then we start moving into competition. Now, if you don't understand why competition is the last in the bucket to fill, it is because it has the least amount of revenue generation opportunities that we have currently. We don't draw the seats of a football program. We don't draw the media rights of that same entity or have those stadiums to fill those seats. The goal and dream would be to get there, but that's the 10-year mark. That's the cultural evolution of understanding how to be a fan of esports and what we're already been working on for years and will continue to work on towards. But for competitive, the idea is that if we get to a point where we're revenue generating out of community and labs, which then feeds into creative content, which then overflows into competition, now your coaches are paid. Once your coaches are paid, we now have stability. In that stability, that means that coaches can dedicate more time to supporting their programs. When we talk about fundraising and tournament winnings is there just because it's kind of a dub, but tournament winnings are, that's a really hard and lofty goal. It's there. I'm not ignorant to that. That's a huge challenge. The schools that are pumping money into their programs on that side of what we do, again, their ROI, their return on investment models are completely different than what we have to work with. But let's talk about fundraising. So when we fuel the creative content component and the community and labs component, what we just enabled is the fact that any of our competitive rosters can immediately go into doing 12-hour streams to do different fundraisers, because now you have marketing people, now you have producers, now you have a staffed and funded media and news team that has pathways to compensate their work, the same way that you guys are going to reap the benefits of the fundraising campaigns that you have. So last year, we saw Overwatch do a $4,500 fundraiser. We saw Call of Duty do $1,000. We saw Halo do over $1,200. And we saw Rainbow Six do the Panda Express and Chipotle things. Rocket League did one as well. Everyone had a little bit of opportunity to do that. It's not easy. It takes some hustle. But none of you are supposed to be or need to be production experts. None of you need to know how those rooms work. The goal is that if, let's say, Halo wants to redo something like their speed runs between Halo 1 and 3, well, if they set the goal at we want to fundraise $2,500, well, we can provide that producer, obviously the access to the room, the channels, the marketing, everything to promote that with good communication, and you hit that $2,500 goal, well, Halo can easily pay the $150 to that staff, because the only other people that are going to reap the benefit of that fundraiser are the 4 to 5, maybe 6, or a few more students that are on that team. That becomes exclusively Halo's money. So we've created that platform for you to go and theoretically fundraise every day if you communicate it and schedule it out. The day will come when the overflow is so good because of third-party sponsorships and all these other artifacts and revenue pathways that we create, that we back to a sustainable scholarship award system. And that's just not yet. At the bottom, I denote that the point of all of this is that the undergraduate jobs and the ancillary third-party like dev leads on the competitive side, that's how that will be funded. We will make our own money. When it comes to my job, the manager's job, any graduate assistant positions and the administration roles, those will come out of what I lobby for the university, of the little trickle that they can give me, and the very top level departmental sponsorships. When I go and say, OU Valorant, as a great example, had a tournament this summer as well, Traveling LAN, and they had a $2,000 sponsor. That $2,000 sponsor is branded now on the Valorant page, specifically just that corner of what we do. When I talk about top level department, I mean, how do I put a brand on everything, which is a conversation that is a big one. But as we move into venue renovations and things like that, that's what I'm working with as a means to fuel those graduate assistants and stabilize jobs. The whole point of this chart, and to show the importance of the community and labs, and again, if you're a competitor that wants to work on be on payroll and work that community and labs, why it's so critical. It is the lifeblood of everything that we want to do from this future. And we honestly, 400 memberships, I don't think is that hard, considering how big the incoming freshman class is at 6,000. And the amount of money that we spend on DLC, and the fact that our venue is already 90% functional, regardless of the renovation not being here yet. Yeah, so that's enough about finances. Again, anything in this presentation and this update, you are welcome to DM me and message me as you want. So let's talk about complex updates. Now there's several, some big macro ones. First of all, bathroom updates, the bane of our existence. When we are in daily operations, and to go back to the venue's hourly rates, on Saturdays and Sundays, the venue will be open to the public, meaning that anybody can come in there. And as long as they're adhering to being respectful of our space, they can leverage it. That means mom, dad, that means fans during a football game, they get to campus early. That means high schoolers, whatever, they can come and use this space on Saturdays and Sundays. Monday through Friday, however, minus the Friday night public event, up until that point, the venue is exclusive to the campus only, meaning only students, faculty, staff, and campus partners, meaning like if they're on the research campus by the Weather Center or anything like that, then they can use that space. So the bathrooms have been a big pain in the butt. And so these are the workflows. If it's a public event, then interior use of the inside Cross bathrooms are off limits because of the protection of students that live in the residence halls of Cross. If it's general operations, meaning campus operations only, we can absolutely enter into Cross. We can unlock that door and you can come and go freely during those Monday through Friday timeframes. Also, we did not mention, but again, outlined the hours of operation. Again, not that anyone will remember. Monday through Thursday will be 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday is 11 a.m. to midnight. Saturday is 11 a.m. to midnight. And Sunday is 12 to 8 p.m. And again, that's all outlined on the website once we get it. So complex updates. So there's the bathroom updates, network upgrades. So when we launched the venue in March, we had only 4 Ethernet connections coming into the venue side, meaning that each one of those clusters of 5 or 6 PCs had only one Ethernet connection and it was split between all 5. Last month, we did do the upgrades. Everything in the venue and the complex side, or the entire complex, both clinic side and venue side, every PC that is physically connected to the network now has a full 2.5 gig connection, meaning you have the fastest internet on campus where the university is providing hardware, period. So now I'm not worried if stuff's not downloaded because you can download stuff pretty quickly. I think Call of Duty from scratch was under 15, 16 minutes, 14 minutes at worst or at best. And it still has more. The network is actually upgraded for 5 gigabit connections per machine. We just don't have the network cards to do that. That will be part of the renovation upgrades next year, and we will enable 5 gig across the board, which means COD is less than 10 minutes from scratch. So yay, fastest internet on campus. The second component, Wi-Fi, the second bane of our existence. OU Wi-Fi is extremely prohibitive. And again, the reason why is because of a research campus that has government contracts that require compliance to protect the integrity of our security. And if you've been watching society in general, network security and cybersecurity only continue to become more and more important. Now, we are bringing in Cox, specifically Cox Internet Service, to fuel the Wi-Fi on both sides of the complex, meaning that now we are not adhering to the university's Wi-Fi, meaning that there's no longer, at least for this year, no OU Wi-Fi in our complex. It will be exclusively a venue or a complex ECCI Wi-Fi network, which will enable that network functionality for Nintendo Switches. All of our consoles, VR, emulators will be on that specific network. Now, that network will not be free to join. That network will not be welcome to everyone to use. It is a membership perk, meaning that if you're a dev student, your Nintendo Switches work on it. I'm not adding phones or laptops. I might add laptops, but at the same point, another area that we have is now when we get into renovated state, both networks will be there. For right now, I need to figure out how to get Nintendo working, which this is the solution. And each of those access points that we need cost $1,200 to $1,400 each. And we're not made out of money. So I added one access point, and so that means that we have 2 on the clinic side and 3 on the venue side. And so all consoles, all dev student switches, VR, televisions, things like that will be put on there, which will enable that. So as a membership package, we'll take the MAC address of people's Nintendo Switches and we'll add them to that network once it comes enabled. That hasn't been installed yet. It's currently in the process of being approved. It's already got approvals. It's just financial approvals. And so we're waiting for that installation. It should be live before we go 7-day operations on August 12th, hoping that it's really done in the next 2 weeks. Venue side specific updates. We now have a general workstation area. Now, the general workstation area we already had, but I upgraded it. These will all run Linux, so it makes it really easy to manage. We don't have to worry about updates or things like this. These will automatically update. This will also be on that third-party Cox Wi-Fi. But these are meant for general work. So first come, first serve, but these are free to use. These are meant for students to be able to use anything web-based in regards to getting on Canvas or One, doing homework, using Google Docs or Office 365. They can absolutely put up a video and do homework and so forth. That's what they're intended to do. We want to make sure that we're welcoming students and still personifying the need to get your studies done. Maybe you want to chill out in the esports venue or in the gaming venue, get some homework done, do it all day. These spaces are, again, first come, first use, first come, first use, and are just free to use. Now, they are absolutely older hardware and intended to do so because there's no graphics cards, there's no GPUs. They're running Linux to inhibit their ability to be gaming stations despite their theme. The theme that way just to adhere to, obviously, the purpose of the space. Next, we have the lounge area. Now, the lounge area was where we had a bunch of those ugly office or desk chairs, and over there I had the PlayStations. But what I did is I moved the emulators over there because, honestly, the biggest thing on emulation that we were using was NCAA. And now we don't need that anymore because EA College Football 25 is right around the corner. Now, this purpose, is people could just come in and chill, listen to vinyl. The emulation stations will still be part of the pay-to-use structure, but it makes more sense to put this as the more casual side of things, more gamer, chill kind of vibe, and just a place for you to pop in. Drop the surge protector on the table, allows people to plug in and charge devices and things like this and just chill. But now that's kind of a dedicated lounge space, a little bit more seating area because we were lacking for sure. Past that, the console areas are now have AV carts. Formerly, if you didn't see that update, now they are formally in AV carts. Inside of these AV carts, there are 4 of them. The Samsung monitors that we had, this was the original intention for them. We were just waiting for those carts to deliver, and so they finally did. And so while this picture has the emulators in there, they're no longer there. But inside of the cabinet is a Nintendo Switch and a PlayStation 5 on each of the 4 corners. Where the VR stations are, I also now have added Xbox Series S's, and so those can be the Xbox stations, which also leads us into the last major venue side update, which is the podcast room. So the podcast room is what the meeting room used to be, and we never really used the meeting room for its intentions. It was just too small. We always kind of defaulted to the den because our developments were too big. So instead, this becomes now our 4th streamer place, the console space in the changing rooms in the venue, now the podcast room that you're seeing right now, the streamer room, which is over on the clinic side, and then the production room, that is where the side-by-side analyst setup structure is already. So the podcast room has 2 functions. The first one is that during daily operations, the typical 11 a.m. to kind of 6 p.m. time frame, this is just the first come, first serve gamer space. It'll have an Xbox in it, Series X, and so that way we have at least 4 PlayStations, Nintendo Switches everywhere, and Xboxes in the venue. We can obviously retrofit this for anything that we want, but an Xbox will live in here as the default. But the idea is this is a more of a private gaming space, so it's first come, first use. We will absolutely use it in a means that can be reserved as a separate entity. So it could be a small party room, things like that. And then in the evenings, if we have a need, this is where podcasts can literally happen. A new segment, a different style of influencer streams as another opportunity. You already see the camera in there. It's already set up, and then a full gaming PC in there as well, which is going to be geared towards production, but can absolutely be a gamer station as well. But that allows us to do that. Now, in this video, what's missing is currently the overhead lighting that I'm going to add supplemental for more broadcast style lighting, and then a giant green screen that's going to basically go behind it. I'm not painting the wall, it's just deployable green screens that we can change backgrounds as we need throughout the time. But this could be a great example of how we evolve production needs. So let's say that we're doing a full-fledged tournament. So you're running production out of the production room on the clinic side. You have your analysts there that are going to do play-by-play and color casting. You're using the stream room for standing analytics in real time, and then you're using the podcast room as a pre-game and post-game show. Very similar to that. So that's one way that you could leverage all of those spaces together. But yeah, that's the last update on the venue side. On the clinic side, we got floor upgrades. So now it's no longer that tripping hazard. It is now a very nice, definitely bright in the room, a little too bright. But I'm not going to take a complaint about it because it was free. And again, it's only to get us through this next year until we get to renovation next summer. And everything else is back where it belongs. But the biggest kind of atmospheric change is that now the floors are not trash. They're nice. The rollers and everything work better on those areas that have this flooring. And so, again, just keep our space nice, keep it clean. You see something and it has an issue, report it. The other big change is the break room. So because we moved the meeting space into now the podcast room on the venue side, I have now consolidated everything into the break room. This is the closet. That's not the bathroom in the break room. So everything that's consumable, Red Bull, the fridge, the coffee machine, the tea, the more healthy-based snacks, minus the Cheez-Its, will live here, including all the backfill and the coffee in the back corner. Again, for development students or staff, this is your right. All I ask is that if you're eating 2 to 4 snacks, you probably just need to go grab something to eat. That's not the intention of this. This is meant to be like, hey, I'm kind of hungry and my shift's almost over. I just need a quick boost. Grab a Red Bull, grab a snack. If you're drinking 2 Red Bulls in a single shift, you probably need to stop. And if I see it, I'm going to call it out because it's just unhealthy. Nothing wrong with Red Bull in moderation, but you need to be balancing water and Red Bull. And so forth, or coffee and so forth. So please be respectful of your own body, but we're not going to be unhealthy. All right, that concludes the complex updates heading into the new year. So let's talk about eligibility updates. Eligibility updates is one big kind of change. It got a little bit more aggressive. Now, you guys already have been experiencing this for the first year. We deployed it to start vetting it. It absolutely served its purpose, as we did have students that dropped below 2.0s and recovered graciously, not even got back to a 2.5. They got to 3.0s and above, several cases of that. But we also had cases of students that stayed below a 2.5 and below a 2.0. One of the things that we wanted to make a statement on top of obviously this revenue kind of goal, is that we are scholars. We can absolutely be academic high achievers. And I'll still reference the fact that we had 3 pre-med Rocket League players about 2 years ago that were all 4.0 or 3.8 or higher. We can do it. And that's everybody's responsibility. The individual, the team, to support each other and not put pressure on it if they say they need to get their studies done. You need to do this. This could be a great, again, segue for you. If you notice that you have peers that are not being healthy in their academics, take the time and say, hey, let's schedule a team meeting. Let's just have a study session. Let's put on some chill vibes in the background. Let's grab a couple of pizzas and let's just use the den and just have a study session. Support each other. That's what this is about. Support each other. Our community doesn't just transcend to the general statement of gamer. It transcends to the fact that these teams are your communities. I don't dare say the word family, but these are absolutely your brothers and sisters in the trenches, and that you depend upon to do what we do inside of ECCI and represent us in competition or on a team, project, or running that facility. Celebrate each other, but that also means supporting each other. So the changes are like this. If you reach 3 strikes at any point, you will no longer be eligible to be at OU at all, as far as the ECCI development. Now, this isn't something new. I'm just reiterating it as a starting kind of foundation of the intensity and severity of what I mean as a director that wants to promote the fact that we have good academic health, but also good academic success. So if you are a non-competitive student and you fall below a 2.5 GPA and or are not maintaining full-time student status at the end of the semester, you will be removed from the program and can reapply after 1 full semester of non-participation and then meet our standards. So what that looks like is if you enter into the fall semester upcoming and you're an incoming freshman, you have no GPA, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you get to midterms, and especially the end of the semester below a 2.5, then we're going to remove you, and that's even including payroll. If you're a competitive student and you fall below a 2.5, you're not going to get removed. You're going to get benched. 2.5 is now the threshold, no longer 2.0. And it's again 3 strikes. Now, if you get to 2.5 or you get to 2.49, there's no exceptions. It's 2.5 or bust at all times. In the future, when we start externally recruiting and offering scholarships, it'll be a 3.0 requirement, but that's at least 2 years away at a minimum, but it will come. We have to personify the culture that keeps people off our back, that keeps people saying that gamers are lazy, that gamers are non-contributors, that gamers aren't good students. Nothing wrong with being lazy. Lazy people are just efficient because they only do what they need to do when they need to do it. However, when the lazy transcends past that is what I'm talking about. I'm absolutely a procrastinator too, still gamer culture. And so understand the intention and the definition of how I use the word lazy. So if you drop below a 2.5, or if you're entering into the fall semester below a 2.5, now this applies to you. So again, 3 strikes, meaning that if you enter at a 2.49 or below, then you are now on probation and you will be benched. And if you get to midterms and raise it above 2.5, you're good to go again, but it still counts as a strike. Do not drop below 2.5. Be preemptive. If you have a semester that's going to be crazy and busy, then maybe it makes more sense to just sideline yourself and say, I need to focus on my academics so that I can make sure that my grades are good moving forward. Our product isn't winning national championships, at least not yet. At least not a product yet. If you care about that, you should. It's a competitive effort. It's understood. But the ECCI goal, our national championship, is that you graduate on time or within a respectable reason within time with good grades and hopefully set up to be marketable to get a job and start your career. That is our natty. That's our goal. And anything that gets in the way of that, Now, that doesn't mean that what we do is not important. You guys need things to do. You need socialization. You need people that you can relate to, regardless of the degree. You need people that you can have, movie nights with and, have mental health boosts and lean on each other. That's so important. But the grades and your academics are priority one. And so we will not waver on that. However, anytime that something is coming up where you are concerned about your academic health, speak up, express it, talk about it. And we can work through it. So GamerHaus Updates. This is brief, but we had our first cohort. We only marketed for 30 days, and we had 18 beds to fill. We filled 12 of them. I think one student unfortunately dropped out, so we're at 11. This is the first GamerHaus cohort. Now, for those that don't know, this is our first living learning community. The wing that's down the hall, interior of Cross, on the first floor from our venue and complex is GamerHaus. And we will slowly and surely take over the rest of Cross B over time as we continue to have more legitimization, funding, and so forth, and improve ourselves. And as the rest of the renovations across campus complete with the master housing plans and the new residence halls. But it's here. You now at a university that has dedicated living facilities for our space. Now, GamerHaus is focused around just the gaming side of what we do. Now, students that are in development and incoming freshmen can absolutely be in development. But the intention of marketing is for students that just love gaming, to give them a boost of using gaming cultures. It means to help them feel comfortable and get more comfortable in their worlds to be productive and contributors to their own successes faster. It is the equivalency of Camp Crimson Extended. It's the equivalency of having your family in the Pride. It's the equivalency of, having, meetings and mixers with your peer engineering students or your peer architecture students. Now it's just gamer focused. And eventually we will absolutely have GamerHaus dorms that are focused around competition or development students. But for right now, it's focused on the gamer side of using gaming as a topic to help freshmen find their footing at OU when they first start. We have a new Trifold. I'm not gonna spend any time on this because obviously you guys will get sick of it, but just to flash it up on the screen. Again, the About Us is written. I just don't have it on this graphic. But yeah, so anyway, this will be printed out. These will be the new handouts and things like that. New website. I'm not going to spend any time on this. It's going to be launched sometime next week, hopefully on the 11th, the day before reset. But the new website is streamlined. It's very modern. Everything that we've talked about in here will be further defined on there in regards from the outward-facing stuff, event structure, the venue operations, the logistics, or the technical specifications of the venue and its capabilities. program overviews, rosters, and things like this will all get fresh, updated, and have new homes. Thankfully, because the old ou.edu/esports website was just really old, and another reason why I put so much on Sooner Esports, but I'm going to be bringing back pretty much everything but competition, because that website is definitely better for the team's rosters and the way that that's presented versus creative content, community, and labs and administration on ou.edu/esports. All right, so here's a fun one. Renovation updates. So we're going to start with the where we left off with, this is the floor plan that was officially approved. This is the option one for those that had seen this before, but this is what this space will look like and the space utilization from left to right: production studio, staff, break room, studio, stream and VR at the top left, team room 1, which is still going to be glass encased, which is currently the clinic side check-in, a tape and VOD conference room right next to it, which will double as additional production space. The admin office. Now, I'm not going to say that's my office. I will obviously live in that office a lot, but it's meant to be administrative office for any time that anybody needs to have one-on-ones, co-working space, and it's not being utilized by anybody else. Next to it, the co-working spaces, which is the media and news pit. But again, co-working spaces in case that we need to do work, or things need to be done, just need a workstation that's private, a little bit more business oriented, and so forth. Of course, the bathrooms get fixed in a family restroom, as well as women's bathrooms, and then men's bathroom all the way on the far right. Team rooms 2 and 3. So there'll be 3 dedicated team rooms with 5 stations, meaning that we can drop PlayStations, Xboxes, Switches, and of course the PCs in there to make it modular for whatever team is currently participating in that or utilizing that space. And then the blue area is the venue as we know it today. Now, for the first time ever, I'm going to give you the first. These are still beta phase renderings, as the official renderings should be coming out within July, if not August, so we can start actually publicizing, marketing, and I can get to work on fundraising. But we're going to start with the production spaces. So again, this is meant to be that top level side of that schematic you just saw. So the production room is where the current team exam room is, the front area where the racing rig and trophy case are, and where the current production room kind of extends all the way to that space to give us a little bit longer throw. So think more of what the podcast room looks like, but a little bit longer. Obviously, the break room moves in between, and then the stream room, which is again VR stream and production space, continues that on. Then we move into the outside exterior look of the clinic side. So that's that team room 1 glass encasement and the team VOD and the VOD conference room right next to it. But then we go into the venue. So the venue, the idea is again, I don't want to make it just crimson all over the place. It's just too much, but I wanted the crimson accent. And so again, the idea for the stylization of this and why there's a vinyl player in it, which was the nod to this, is we need to celebrate the arts. As much as most people think that gaming is about STEM, and it absolutely is, computer science, and those types of things, electrical engineers for the computers themselves. Somebody had to write the script for Halo. Somebody had to write the theme of a Final Fantasy. Somebody had to write the jingle for Mario and Sonic. That's the arts. And so the idea of this is to style it like a music hall, which one helps us with the acoustics, which we already know is a problem in the venue side, but also create a celebration of the things that we often take for granted. 8-bit music, chiptune, lo-fi, even funk, electronic music in general has a large origination in video games. For me, Mega Man was my introduction into what I would call my first waves of EDM. And if you go back and listen to it and really kind of break it down in a simplistic way, absolutely. So this will be styled like a music hall, but this is the first renderings of you seeing what this is going to look like. Now, these are already past approvals. We're just waiting for the final renderings to happen so that we can actually market it. So there will actually be just higher quality renderings than what you're seeing here in today. This angle is from the top right corner, so where the production space, the storage closet, and the Dell side is currently. This is from that angle looking towards the double door entrance. The other angle is from the check-in desk, or from the back corner where the current lounge is now, looking towards the other way. And so VR right there, right there next to us. The console areas being right here, and then the check-in desk right there by the double doors where you would go in right now. Double doors will remain where they're at. The last piece that I will show is that this is now the approved front entrance of it. So that is a digital ticker on the top of the actual awning. So think like the Gaylord ticker, except this is a full LCD panel at the top where it says esports or OU ECCI in the faces. That is a motion graphic, a full LCD panel as well, coupled with those giant brick slabs on the walls being fully covered by screens also. So there's your venue renovation updates. These are all approved. We're just waiting again for final renderings in high quality to come out. So from the top level departmental updates, the last thing that I'm going to say for this component before I talk about the specific areas is that there will be a required all hands ECCI meet and greet September 8th or 15th. I have to wait until we figure out when tryout dates are, and so we can make sure, because I want everybody onboarded or at least slotted in a roster in that master doc before we commit that date. But I will make that decision in early August. And the reason for this is many of you didn't realize we have a production team. Many of you don't realize that we have this or that. And I want to address the entirety of all development students in a single time to say, here's who I am, here's who leadership is, in a more intentional setting aside from back to school events chaos. And give you guys opportunities to see the fact that it's not just Halo, it's not just COD, it's not just production, it is all of us in this. And it's important to build those relationships because, as you saw the financial graph, we have to depend on each other, and we have to depend on each other more, which requires communication. And the best way to do that is to break ice, help you understand that each other exist, your scopes and your intentions, and let's get to work and have some fun. That concludes the top level directorial updates at the 100-foot level of ECCI. Now I want to take a small segment and talk about each area's updates. Communities and labs, we already talked about venue operations, but a venue operations, again, 7 days a week, anywhere from 11 or 10 hours to 8 hours a day, 8 hours being Sunday, everyone else being 10 hours or more. Membership and perks, again, will be on the website, but just know that is a key thing. That is our biggest thing. No matter where you are in ECCI, you should be promoting, hey, you should check out the gaming venue. Anywhere you say, hey, you like gaming? Just check out the venue. At the very least, come through, get a tour, or go to ou.edu/esports to learn, more about what's in it. Help promote it, because it will benefit you the more that we have people coming through that space, whether it's hourly rate or membership packages being sold. Moving on to creative content, streams, podcast, influencer development specific updates. So for streamers and influencer development of the yesteryear, you are still in limbo for a little bit. Now I may address you maybe August 1, but really don't anticipate anything until closer to middle of August. And the biggest one is that we're launching a separate application that is going to basically say, I need you to sell me on why you should be a member of this team. You're still ECCI members. If you're already on payroll, you're good. You already done everything that you would need to do. So there's a little bit of backtracking we need to do. And that application is focused on trying to develop shows where we can leverage production. So it's taking away the intention of the intention of just being influencer development, and then broadening it into leveraging production as a platform where we can plug influencer style streams and all those individual types of production styles or production intentions. So you're sitting pretty. You don't have anything to do. Stay engaged, stay connected. And then again, that scheduling coordinator position, a couple of you are still here that were doing that for Anna. That might be your calling. Period. The intention to get consistent. That is the biggest goal for creative content. Meaning that if we have influencer streams, my goal is to enable payroll to the point where you are able to feed yourself off of this on top of your own stream's revenues. So if you're on payroll, that gives me the mechanism to pay you when that time comes. But the goal is to get us to consistency, meaning that if you apply to have a influencer style individual stream, then we need it consistent, meaning that if it's a weekly thing, you need to make sure that it is a weekly thing aside from extenuating circumstances, weather related or family loss or health related that's really, really bad. The consistency is important, because just like if you're an individual brand or an individual influencer yourself, consistency is what helps you get those sponsors, what helps you do that. It's no different for us. So that means that if every Tuesday night you have a stream going, whether it's in venue or at home, that we can leverage that as a means to find sponsors to support that collective of content. Once that happens, because of consistency, I'm not going to pocket that money. That money is going right into supporting that program immediately. Like, it's once the money hits the bank, you're on payroll. When your stream hits that 6-hour window or that 4-hour window, whatever hour window it is to do that stream, that's you drawing a paycheck. That's the dream. That's the goal moving forward. The same goes for esports productions. So this is a blend between creative content and competition. Competition needs to be more communicative. Granted, we are all at the mercy of our leagues and the other teams for schedules, but we need to be more communicative about when matches are happening so production can be lined up to produce your matches. COD is the holy grail of our program right now, thanks to Lemon, now retired and now graduated, but hopefully Parker steps in those shoes. I think he absolutely will. But they streamed every match this season that they could, except for one, which was 100% my fault because of being stretched too thin at the very beginning of last school year. But they had a consistent 20 to 40 viewership. And in that scenario, who wants to be the sponsor of OU Call of Duty? Whether that's parental structures, whether that's parents. The idea would be is that competition doesn't even have to fundraise intentionally that much, if at all, because their competition streams are so consistent that we're able to get sponsorship for that, which then feeds into their own coffers. And then for competition, fundraiser, we already got the spiel on the financial side. So if you're just tuning in for those updates, head back to finances to understand the philosophy around fundraising. The biggest change for competition outside of eligibility is the removal of Team B rosters. Now, the biggest reason for that is scaling. For 7+ years, and honestly 6+ years, we have now vetted our processes. We are strong enough and confident enough and competent enough to refine. So in refinement, those B team rosters, there are exceptions. Halo, I'm looking at you. There are exceptions where the B team rosters make sense. However, the goal for this is to have uniformity across the board. So from a director standpoint, all B teams are officially cut, period. Your dev leads do not have to build a team B. They are in fact inhibited from building a Team B roster, starting effective immediately. Now, that being said, your Team A roster, so I'll guarantee you some of them have graduated. If not, you still have sub slots. You still have a developmental pathway in your subs, which provides you redundancy. Additionally, you can absolutely petition to have a Team B, but you have to petition. It is no longer a defaulted grandfathered in option. You have to petition and justify it based on the health of your Team A roster, meaning that you have to have proven yourselves. You have to have consistency, and you have to showcase that you're capable of the bandwidth requirement of building a secondary team. Period. So Halo is working on that, I believe, already from what I saw, and will more than likely get that approval. But as a default starting point, you do not have a Team B option effective immediately. Additionally, we have some cuts. In that, we are going to remove the following programs, period. And if you want further details on this, message Thumper. But the teams that are being cut, or the titles based on the Intercollegiate Esports page on Sooner Esports, are formally these following titles. NBA 2K, which we never launched, is just being formally removed off the page. Madden is going away, and EA College Football will fill its place. OSU is gone. The team came together and said it just doesn't make sense to continue. And the last cut is Fortnite. So Fortnite is now officially no longer development, and we are not looking to expand any titles this year, period. In the future, as a foresight and sign off to this for the competitive areas, one of the things that we are exploring, we just don't have the bandwidth or manpower to do it yet, but this will be a goal for fall 25, next school year, our school year after this one, is to launch a new student organizational classification, very similar to how we have the OU athletics components and then OU sports clubs. Sports clubs right now, like OU hockey, motorsports, volleyball, are not official athletics programs. They are club sports in that B teams and new expansions that don't make sense, don't have strong rapport, don't have strong leagues, don't have strong foundations, can apply as a student org to be a club esport in the future. Now that's as much as far as I've worked on it mentally, and I'll leave it at that. So for that, State of the Union, welcome to an hour and a half of Moog speech. Again, this will be segmented so you can fast forward and go back and forth. I will create some cliff notes in this post, and I don't expect everyone to watch this. I do not expect everyone to go back and recap this, but it's here. And if you have a question about these things and I refer you to this video, there is no excuse of I didn't know. That time is over. We have to get moving. We have to get efficient. We're after big and lofty goals once again, and we are very close to achieving some really massive milestones. Financial independence in regards to funding all of our undergraduate positions is a massive statement, where students can draw 20 to 30 hours of work from us across many of our things. Guys, we're right there. Let's do this. Welcome to the 2024-2025 school year. Lots of evolution. Once again, refinements, getting geared up for some more things. Good luck this year. I hope you're having a great summer. And if not, reach out. Let's have a conversation and see how we can boost each other's mental states. But I'm excited for back to school. I'm excited for 7-day operations, having our own home that we get to share with the rest of the campus and the entire region. And yes, we are going to host some collegiate tournaments. Yes, we're going to host EA College Football events. Yes, we're going to do football game activations with EA College Football. All of that's already past the context of we're thinking about it. They're already in motion. We just can't reveal them yet because we're not going to share what's not proven or what's not proof or what's not fact yet. So good luck this year. If you need anything, reach out. We're here for you. Boomer Sooner, let's do this.